Israel is watching all of this with an extremely sharp eye as well, because any escalation between Iran and American forces automatically changes the security equation for Tel Aviv. Iran-backed groups surround Israel on multiple sides, and a new supreme leader who opens his tenure with direct threats against American military power is not someone who is going to soften his position on Israel. If anything, this new leadership signals a harder, more aggressive posture across the board. And that reality is not lost on anyone sitting in the Israeli Defense Ministry right now. The world is standing at a very delicate crossroads, and the decisions made in the coming days and weeks in Washington, in Tehran, in Tel Aviv will shape whether this region moves toward confrontation or finds some way to pull back from the edge. Because right now the edge is very close, closer than it has been in a long time. Here is the bottom line that everyone needs to walk away understanding. Iran just went through a leadership transition that was always going to be one of the most consequential moments of this decade. The man now holding the highest seat of power in that country did not choose to begin his reign with an olive branch. He chose to begin it with a threat. A direct, on-record threat aimed at the most powerful military on earth. And that choice is a declaration of intent. It is a signal to every ally, every enemy, and every armed group watching from the shadows about exactly what kind of supreme leader he intends to be. American forces in the region are now operating in an environment that just became measurably more dangerous overnight. The rules of engagement are being reviewed. The intelligence networks are working around the clock, and somewhere in the corridors of the Pentagon, decisions are being made that could define the next chapter of American involvement in the Middle East. This story is not ending here, it is beginning here, because a new supreme leader making threats on day one is not a man planning to stand down, he is a man planning to act. The only question that remains, the question that military strategists, world leaders, and ordinary people across the globe are now asking is when and how far he is willing to go. The Middle East has never been a region that moves slowly when the pressure builds. And right now, the pressure is building fast. Stay close to this channel. Every development as this story unfolds will be covered here, broken down clearly, completely, and without the noise. If you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because what happens next in this story will matter to every single person watching this video, and you will not want to miss it. The waters of the Persian Gulf have never been this dangerous. And what just happened in the last few hours is the kind of thing that does not stay in the Middle East. It travels. It spreads. It hits every country on earth right in the wallet, right in the fuel tank, right in the food on the table. Iran has struck oil tankers near Iraq, not in a movie, not in the drill. In real life right now. And the world is already panicking. Oil prices jumped the moment the news broke. Shipping companies are rerouting their vessels. Insurance rates on cargo ships crossing that region have shot through the roof overnight. And world leaders are on the phones calling each other, calling their military advisors, calling anyone who can tell them what happens next. Because here's the thing. When tankers get hit near Iraq, it is not just about Iraq. It is not just about Iran. The Persian Gulf carries roughly 20% of all the oil that moves across this planet every single day, 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil that heats homes, runs factories, fills up cars, and powers hospitals that passes through those waters. When those waters become a war zone, the whole world feels it. And right now, those waters are a war zone. Iran did not accidentally bump into these tankers. This was deliberate. This was calculated. This was a message sent with fire and metal to the United States, to Israel, to Saudi Arabia, and to every country that has been putting pressure on Tehran. The message is simple. Push Iran into a corner, and Iran will push back hard in places that hurt. But who exactly got hit? How did it happen? And why did Iran choose this moment, this specific moment, to make such a bold and dangerous move? Stay right here. Subscribe to this channel right now if you have not done it yet, because this story is about to go very deep and you do not want to miss a single part of what is coming. Washington did not stay silent for long. It never does. Behind closed doors, the meetings began. Military options were placed on the table, satellite images were studied, Strike packages, plans for hitting Iranian-linked targets, were dusted off and updated. The language coming from American officials became sharp, direct, and cold. But here is the dangerous dance that has been going on for years and is now spinning faster than ever before. America does not want a full war with Iran, not because it fears losing. The military power of the United States is not in question, but because everyone who has studied this region knows what a full war means. It means the entire Middle East catches fire. It means oil prices destroy the global economy. It means American soldiers dying in numbers that would shake the country to its foundation. It means a conflict that does not end in weeks or months, but possibly years. Iran knows this. The new supreme leader knows this. And that knowledge is exactly what gives him room to push. He is betting that America will absorb the strikes, respond in a limited way, issue strong statements, and then look for a diplomatic exit. He has watched America do exactly that before. He studied it. He planned around it. But there is something different about this moment that even he may not have fully calculated. The patience in Washington is running thin. The generals who have watched American soldiers get targeted again and again by Iranian-backed forces have been pushing for a harder response for a long time. And this new provocation, coming so boldly, so early in the new supreme leader's reign, may be the moment the calculation inside Washington finally changes, because there is a point where a superpower stops absorbing and starts swinging. And that point may be closer now than it has ever been. Israel is watching every move. Gulf states are quietly repositioning, and in the corridors of power across the world, everyone is asking the same question. Has the new man in Tehran finally gone one step too far? Iraq is one of the most complicated countries on earth right now. And that is not an accident. It is the result of decades of war, invasion, occupation, and interference from powerful neighbors who never stopped. Treating Iraq like a chess piece rather than a country. On one side, the United States, America spent trillions of dollars and thousands of lives reshaping Iraq after 2003. It still has military bases there. It still trains Iraqi forces. It still sees Iraq as a critical partner in keeping Iran's influence from spreading too far across the region. On the other side, Tehran has spent years quietly and patiently building influence inside Iraq's political system, inside its military structures, inside its economy. Many of the most powerful militia groups operating inside Iraq today receive funding, weapons, and direct orders from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Iran does not need to invade Iraq. Iran already has enormous power inside Iraq from within. So when Iranian forces struck those tankers in waters right next to Iraqi territory, Baghdad found itself in an impossible position. Condemn the strikes and risk angering Iran and the Iranian-backed militias that could destabilize the Iraqi government overnight. Stay silent and risk looking complicit to Washington, which could respond by pulling support, pulling funding, or taking military action that uses Iraqi soil as a staging ground. There's no safe answer for Baghdad. Every door leads to a different kind of fire. And the Iraqi people, ordinary men and women who just want electricity to work and prices to stay affordable, they are the ones who will pay the heaviest price no matter what their government decides. Because here's the harsh reality. When the big powers clash, the countries caught in between do not get to watch from a safe distance. The economic shockwaves from rising oil prices will hit Iraq too. Disruptions to shipping in the Gulf affect Iraqi exports. Instability in the region freezes foreign investment. And any escalation that draws American military assets deeper into the area puts Iraqi civilians in proximity to a conflict. They had no vote in starting. This is the tragedy at the center of this crisis. The country that sits at the geographic heart of this confrontation is also the country least equipped to survive the consequences of its spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, the international community is scrambling. The United Nations Security Council has been called into an emergency session. Britain, France, and Germany have all issued statements calling for de-escalation. China and Russia, who both have significant economic relationships with Iran, are urging restraint, but carefully avoiding any direct criticism of Tehran. Saudi Arabia, which has its own complicated history with Iran, has gone unusually quiet, and that silence from Riyadh is being read by analysts as its own kind of message, a signal that the Saudis are watching very carefully and preparing for multiple possible outcomes, none of which they are announcing publicly. The diplomatic chessboard is moving fast, and every move matters enormously. So where does all of this go from here? That is the question sitting in every intelligence briefing room, every trading floor, every foreign ministry on earth right now. And the honest answer is nobody knows for certain. But the signals are clear enough to read if you know what to look for. The United States has 3 aircraft carrier groups within reach of the Persian Gulf region. That is not a coincidence. That is a message sent back to Tehran in the same language Iran used when it struck those tankers. The language of position power. Washington is not going to absorb this strike quietly. The political pressure inside America to respond firmly is enormous. Any administration that appears to do nothing after Iranian forces hit tankers linked to American supply chains will face brutal criticism at home, so some form of response is coming. The question is what form it takes. A direct military strike on Iranian assets is the option that terrifies everyone because nobody can confidently predict where that leads. Iran has missiles that can reach American bases across the entire region. It has proxy forces in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq that can activate simultaneously and turn a targeted exchange into a multi-front regional war overnight. This is why diplomacy, even quiet back-channel diplomacy that the public never hears about, is happening right now at incredible speed. Because the people in the rooms where these decisions get made understand something that does not always come through clearly in news headlines. A war between the United States and Iran would not be a short war. It would not be clean. It would not stay contained to the Persian Gulf. It would reshape the entire Middle East. It would send oil prices to levels not seen in modern history. It would trigger economic contractions in countries as far away as Japan, South Korea, Germany, and Brazil. It would create refugee flows that would dwarf anything Europe has dealt with in recent memory. The stakes are not just high, they are civilization level high. And every hour that passes without a diplomatic off-ramp being found is an hour closer to the kind of miscalculation that starts something nobody can stop. Iran is gambling that the pain it can inflict economically will force the world to negotiate. America is gambling that its military positioning will force Iran to back down. And somewhere in the middle of those two gambles are millions of ordinary people in Iraq, in Iran, in the Gulf states, and far beyond, who have no say in any of it and no shelter from the consequences. This story is far from over. The next 72 hours will be among the most consequential the Middle East has seen in years. Watch this space. Stay informed. Share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening in the world right now. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because the follow-up to this story is going to be even bigger than what you just heard.